Hi, thanks for coming to my the makeup session. My name's Rachel, and I'm going to be talking about growth mindset, which is something I really love to talk about. I think it's a really great tool for people to continue to learn in any kind of career. First, I just want to give a quick shout out to all of the sponsors from today. I'm actually one of the conference organizers as well, and it's been really great to have all of these sponsors come and really help us make today a success. So what I'm going to chat through is, come on in if you want to join. What I'm going to talk through is a quick intro about me and why I'm talking about this idea, explain a little bit about growth mindset and fixed mindset. I'm going to give 3 experiences from my own life of where using different tools from the growth mindset approach has really helped me have a kind of transformative experience. A few tools and techniques that I use a lot, both myself and with clients, to help them kind of build more of a self-reflection practice, build more self-awareness, which I think is really important for growth mindset. And then if anyone has any questions, we can do a quick Q&A, and then I have like a little mini practice session for the end of the talk. So what I hope you walk away with is one new concept from this idea that resonates, something practical that you might be able to incorporate into your daily routine or into your life, and like a chance to try out a practice that helps with growth mindset. Okay, so who am I? So this is me. I'm Rachel. So right now I'm the Chief of Staff at ButcherBox. We're an online e-commerce company. We offer a subscription to really high quality, humanely sourced meats. You can find us at butcherbox.com. I work with our Chief Product and Technology Officer. So I come from a background of project management, agile coaching, and now I work to make sure our product and technology organization is organized, can succeed, be happy. And then I also have my own business, Elevated Insight Coaching. So I do individual leadership coaching, and I also do agile transformation and business transformation consulting. So connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to learn more. Okay, so this is a really good example of my career path. People often kind of ask me how I got to where I got to, because it's an interesting job, and you know, how do you get into kind of coaching? And I really like this picture. I found it, and I was like, yeah, that's a good description of me in my career. These are some of the things I have done in my career up to now. I used to be a professional actor and a musician. I also worked in production, in theatre and film for a long time. I was an assistant. I was an office manager. I started getting really interested in working in tech. I started learning a lot about project management, grew my career from there, and then I moved up to being a director at ButcherBox, and now I am the Chief of Staff. So it's just a good example that I think, especially in the tech world, it can feel like you have to have exactly the right background, training, certifications, qualifications to get somewhere. And I think while I'm not an engineer or in a technical role, I think my career path is a good example that you really can come from anywhere and go to anywhere. And for me, growth mindset and the kind of principles of that, whether I knew about them at the time or not, were the things that really helped me to change course or to pivot or to really ultimately stay true to who I am. And so while I've done lots of different kinds of jobs and I've gone from the arts into technology, I feel like I've always stayed true to my own values and what I think is important and meaningful to me. And so I've always felt like I've stayed true to myself. So this is where growth mindset was kind of brought kind of into the mainstream. Carol Dweck, she's a PhD, she teaches at Stanford, and she wrote this book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. And in that she talked about growth mindset and fixed mindset. It's, pretty dense book, but if you like reading kind of where it came from, I'd recommend checking this out. So I'm going to talk first about fixed mindset, and then I'm going to talk about growth mindset. Gil Thor's my favorite fixed mindset guy. So a fixed mindset, ultimately this is somebody who believes that sort of intelligence and aptitude are kind of static. You are who you are, you ain't going to change, this is it. So people who kind of get stuck in that fixed mindset pattern often have some of these behaviors. They're folks who really want to avoid taking on a challenge, hit some kind of obstacle or roadblock, whether that's technical or career or in personal life, and they're just going to kind of like give up and say, well, that's not going to change, so why try? Similarly, we'll see then effort as kind of fruitless, like why bother trying, because nothing's going to come of it. It's also someone who can feel quite threatened or insecure, and then therefore not really want to listen to feedback and take what's useful out of it. And kind of can feel a little threatened by the success of other people. Someone who's going to be not happy for other folks, moving up in the world, but kind of feeling really threatened by that. And ultimately that leads to a pretty deterministic view of life, which to me feels kind of not exciting or fun or really going to like put you in the direction of growth. It's going to make you feel really stuck and really trapped where you are, and then nothing's going to change. So that's fixed mindset. Growth mindset, on the other hand, is someone who believes that intelligence and aptitude can be developed. So someone who's in a growth mindset state will really be looking to embrace challenges and kind of take them on, will persist when they hit setbacks. They'll see them as opportunities to grow, see effort as that path to mastery. By trying, by stumbling, by continuing, by persevering, that's how we learn, that's how we grow. I think we all have examples in our life of the time when we were like, this was the hardest thing I have ever done, and I felt like giving up so many times, but I got there. The reward from that is always the most amazing feeling, because you feel like you really earned, the success that you've created for yourself. It's someone who really wants to learn from criticism. I always caveat this with, I think if you are someone who wants to grow and learn, it's really important to also know when criticism is valid and is helpful versus unhelpful. I'm someone who can take things really personally or be highly self-critical. The biggest critic is inside my own head. So when I do get critical feedback, I often have to kind of take it in and think about it, and think about what was valuable, what feels true or fair from that critique or from that feedback, and what feels unhelpful to me or is just going to make me feel really bad about myself, like I can't do anything about it. So I always say with criticism, it's really good to not just feel like, oh, I have to, whatever anybody says that's critical, like it must be true and therefore I should do something about it. It's more taking it in and evaluating for yourself what you feel is useful for you, and then thinking, okay, so if that feels true, even if it's a bit painful, what do I want to do about that, or how can I use that as an opportunity to go and learn something new or ask more questions. And someone with a growth mindset is going to really find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. You see, a celebrity is an easy example. They got to where they got to, and it's like, wow, how did they do that? What can I learn from their journey? But I think more valuable is often the people around us, someone you really admire, someone who you meet and you're like, wow, they've really kind of gotten somewhere either that I want to go, or I see that they've come a really long way and I want to learn how to do that too. Like, I want to learn from them. And it's the kind of person with a growth mindset who's going to go and ask them or ask for advice, how can I kind of learn from what you've done? And so someone in this mindset is going to have a much bigger sense of having free will. We can't always control the things that happen to us or around us, but we can control how we take that in. We can control how we choose to respond to it. And ultimately, that's really what growth mindset is about. So these are the, from Carol Dweck's book, these are the kind of 8 sort of patterns or principles of how to cultivate a growth mindset. So the first one, which I think is great, because the first way to grow any time is to notice, is to be self-aware, is identify where you've got a fixed mindset. I just talked about fixed and growth mindset. I don't think any of us are ever completely in a growth mindset, completely in a fixed mindset. Very few people are like always there. Usually there are areas in our life where we're like really open and like really willing to grow and learn, and then there's other places where we're like, yeah, nah, that's not changing. I'm not doing anything about that. And so if you really want to work on a growth mindset, a good practice is to think about where are some places where some of these, you're like, ooh, that feels familiar. Where are the places in my life where I'm maybe falling into these like patterns of thinking or behaving? So identifying where you have that kind of fixed mindset is really a helpful first step. And then from there, you can kind of go through some of these other phases. So seeking feedback, go ask someone, either someone you really admire or someone close to you, hey, I really want to work on this, or I feel like this is an area I could grow. Like, what do you think? Do you have any advice for me, any feedback? Embracing failure, to be honest, is like the hardest one, but I think is also one of the most valuable. Being able to embrace failure as an opportunity to grow is very challenging, but very rewarding. So there are times where we feel like failure is, really the end of everything and can feel very humiliating, but allowing ourselves to then sit and say, okay, let me go get some feedback. Let me think about what did I learn from this experience, and recognizing that failure really only happens when we give up on ourselves. We can fall over, but if we get back up again, then it's not really a failure. It's just a stumbling block. Pursuing challenges, so going out and finding things that are hard for you, and persevering to try and learn something or to accomplish something. Ask a bunch of questions. I'm always the person in an environment, if I don't know anything about where I'm at, or I feel like I'm new somewhere, I'm just going to put my hand up and be like, I'm just going to ask the dumb questions because I just really want to learn and understand. Taking pride in the journey, I think, is also a very important thing. It's really easy to only focus on critiquing or reflecting, how can I grow? It's really important to take a minute and be proud of the effort that you're putting in to grow and to develop and to learn. So taking those moments throughout your life, throughout any journey, any particular experience, and saying, what can I be proud of? What can I take away from this that I should keep doing, is just as important as what do I need to change. It's also what should I continue to do? Because we're all doing things right and good, and it's really easy to overlook those in the effort to grow, and especially in our career, it's really easy to overlook those things. Praising effort, not ability. For me, this is a very internal piece of work that I have to do all the time. It's really easy to be very focused on the external accomplishment, what it looks like on the outside, the promotion, the raise. Those things are great, but being able to look and see how much you have worked for something, successful or not, but seeing the effort that you have made as valuable is a really important component of growth mindset, because we don't always get everything, right? We can work our butts off for something and then it doesn't happen. And that happens. So that's, embracing failure, but then recognizing the effort that you've put in, that's not wasted. There's always something that you have learned from and grown as a result of putting in that effort. And then using the power of yet. So I can struggle with I haven't done this, or I don't have this qualification, I don't have this experience, and adding yet onto the end of that sentence is very powerful. It, again, changes our mindset to being a little more open, a little more kind of ready to look for a possibility. So that's a very simple one, but it can be really helpful. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 experiences from my life, along with hilarious photos, and just as really landmark moments in my own life where using some of these growth mindset practices were really transformative for me. So experience number 1 is moving to New York in 2003. So this is me in New York in 2003 with my mum at the tender age of 21. And I was in college in the UK, where I'm originally from, and I knew that I kind of wanted something more with my life. I wanted to travel, I wanted to live other places. I was bursting at the seams to go somewhere and do something, but I didn't really know what it was. I was in school for acting. That was my original career. So I was okay, what can I do? I'm going into my senior year of college next year, and I want to get some experience out in the real world. So I decided from somewhere that I was going to try and get an internship in New York with a theatre company, because I grew up in London. New York is one of the other great places to be for theatre. So I went on the 2003 internet, which was a different place, and just started Googling, well, it wasn't even Google really. I just went searching for theatre companies in New York that even had a website or an email address. And I just started emailing them and said, hi, I'd like to come and work for you for free this summer. Will you let me? And I did that for ages, and eventually someone said yes. And so I moved to New York by myself, didn't know anyone, had never been there before, had to figure out how to get a visa, all these things. And I had the most amazing experience of my life, and I ended up moving to New York permanently in 2005. So these were some of the growth mindset practices that I had. I definitely pursued challenges. Navigating, getting a visa to the US is a thing. if anyone's familiar. I asked a lot of questions when I got there. I was this fresh-faced 21-year-old college student, didn't know a thing about working in the professional world. So I just got there and asked every question. I volunteered to do extra things. I picked up the costumes. I did anything that they wanted me to do just so I could learn. And the thing that I took away from my 3-month internship when I went back to finish my degree was just a huge amount of pride for what I'd done. I just did this by myself. I figured it out, and it was just a really kind of incredible, life-changing experience for me. And so what I learned was that really anything is possible. It wasn't easy, but anything really is possible. And what I really took away from it was I know what I want to do now. And that was that I wanted to move to New York, and I wanted to be an actor. And that's what I did. So that was one of my first kind of really important moments in my life where embracing these kinds of mindsets and ways of thinking really helped me to move forward in my life in a way that I would have never thought was possible otherwise. Okay, experience 2 is moving here. So 2020, we moved to Chattanooga. This was a really interesting time in my life. I had been living in New York for 15 years. I had moved away from trying to pursue a professional career as an actor because, I don't know if you all know, it's very difficult to make a living as an actor. And I had always had a full-time job to support myself. And I kind of decided that I was ready to move into another career. I still love, being an artist, but I wanted to just do it for fun. I didn't want to keep trying to do it for a living. And that was when I kind of shifted into moving into tech. And I was working as a project manager in a startup in New York, but I just started to feel really burned out. Something was telling me, this isn't where you're meant to be anymore. I couldn't tell you why, I couldn't tell you what was going on. It just didn't feel right. And so through a whole interesting series of events that coincided with COVID, but actually wasn't related to it, we actually decided to leave New York, and we were going to go traveling, but as you can imagine, that did not happen in 2020. But we knew that we wanted to come and move down to this region, and we spent some time figuring out where we wanted to be, and we landed on Chattanooga. That's me on Edwards Point, if anyone's familiar with that hike. So the things that I had to do to make this move were probably the most difficult. My first experience was like, I'm going, I'm growing, I'm moving, it's great. This was something feels wrong. And it felt really difficult, and I had to really stop and say, where do I have a fixed mindset? Where I had a fixed mindset and why I was really struggling to decide to leave New York was I had a very fixed sense of my identity was like, I'm a New Yorker now. And this is where I'm, live, this is where I'm from. Why would I ever leave New York? It's the greatest city in the world. It's really easy to get into that kind of mindset of that's who you are, which it isn't, right? It's just a place that I lived. But I had to really identify that I had a very fixed mindset at that time about where I was living and how I identified myself as an actor, as a musician. And I had to be willing to let that go, which was an extremely painful experience sometimes in this journey, but really valuable. And part of that was embracing failure. One way to look at me moving away from pursuing a professional career as an actor was to say that I had failed at it because I didn't make it. But that's not really the whole story. I had an incredible 15 years working in New York in theater and in film, and I had the most amazing time. So again, none of that was a waste, right? I praised the effort, not the ability of what I had done. I would not be able to be as comfortable standing up and giving a talk, which I found out I was doing about 25 minutes ago because we lost a speaker, if I hadn't spent all that time in that career getting really comfortable standing up in front of rooms of people. So it actually set me up for the career that I have now, which is working with lots of different people, being really comfortable in any environment, being able to talk to anyone. So it was a really powerful experience. This one was probably the most difficult though. But the things I learned again that anything is possible. If you had told me 20 years ago, that girl in the picture in 2003, that this is where I would be, this is where I'd be living, and this is what I'd be doing, I would have told you you're crazy. So yeah, anything's possible. And what I really also learned was I know where I want to be now, which is right here. And since I've moved here, I've met an amazing group of people in the tech community here. Really felt like I found my home, and it's been a really kind of amazing experience. Okay, so next experience is actually right now. I'm in the middle of it. So this was me at DevOps Days in November, also giving a talk about trying to work with product and engineering. where I am now is I've been working at ButcherBox for 5 years and I love it, and I'm also really excited about my kind of future that I'm working on as a coach and a consultant, kind of working in the local community. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what that's going to look like next. You know, how do I balance these two things? How do I start to kind of build my own small business while, you know, continuing to work at this really great company? And so I'm in this transitional phase of my life yet again. Here I am, 20-something years later. So what am I doing right now? I'm looking for a lot of feedback. I'm reaching out to people who I'm getting introduced to, who've started their own small business. I'm getting feedback. I also have a coach, so I'm asking her for a lot of feedback on how I can kind of grow. I connected with some people who know a lot about entrepreneurship in Chattanooga, so I'm trying to meet with them, ask them questions, ask them for help. And I'm really using the power of yet. I don't know what this is going to look like yet. I don't know where it's going to go. But this time around, that feels exciting. And so that's, for me, a really great moment of growth for me to recognize. And so the things I've learned, and I'm still learning, is that anything is possible. That's my universal truth throughout life. And now I know what I want to learn. I really want to know how to kind of enter this new phase of, you know, balancing my own business and working, and, you know, see what that kind of brings me over the next few years. Okay, so if you're like, this is cool, how do I kind of start to use some of you know, these mindset patterns to help me, whether that's because you're trying to grow in your current career, if you're new into tech and you're like, I don't even know where to start, I'm super overwhelmed, you're trying to career pivot, you know, these things apply regardless of the industry you're in, the type of job you do. These are all just kind of really great you know, tools and techniques. So these are a few things that I use a lot, both with myself and with people that I coach. Self-reflection and building self-awareness is, I think, one of the best things that you can start to do as a human. It's just really a powerful thing. Two different practices that I use a lot. One is called morning pages. This comes from a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's not just for artists, it's really helpful for anybody. Morning pages is a morning journal practice, but instead of a Dear Diary, yesterday I X, it's that every morning you have a notebook. I use a, like, not a too big one because the requirement is 3 pages. So I have a small size notebook. Every morning, cup of coffee, 3 pages, no more, no less. You have to write 3 pages. So the discipline of filling 3 pages is really interesting. And the idea is there is no format and no structure to those pages. You can write about what happened yesterday. You could write about what happened a week ago and it's finally like in your brain and you need to get it out. You could draw a picture. You could write a poem. Like you could, you know, do anything. You could like try and solve a problem at work. But the idea is that in the morning, getting 3 pages of something out of your brain really, really helps you to kind of like get the sort of head trash out and set you up for the day. And I found it really interesting. Most of the time it's not very readable, but it's just for you. It's not for anybody else. And you don't even need to go back and reread it. It really is about the act of getting it out. And you can do it notebook and pen. You can also do it, you know, on a laptop if you prefer to type. But I really like that practice. And then a personal retro, anyone who's worked in tech long enough is probably, if you've been around a Scrum Master, you've been in a dreaded retro, but I really like them. I find personal retrospectives helpful if you are like ending a big project or you've just been through some like really big experience in your life and you're like, I'm trying to sort through like what the hell just happened. Retros are really helpful. And these are usually the 4 things that I use. And again, you can do this any way you want. You can just write them down. You can, you know, do it in a document. The first one I always do is lessons learned. Again, it puts you in that growth mindset. What did I learn from this experience, from this project, from whatever it is? And then the other 3 questions are, what do I want to leave behind? So what of this experience do I want to leave behind? This could be relationships with other people that you want to leave behind. This could be patterns of thinking of your own that you want to leave behind because you realize they don't serve you anymore. It could be my tendency to do this thing, or my procrastination is usually one that I want to leave behind. So think things that you want to leave. And then what do I want to bring forwards? So I want to bring forwards that I didn't give up. You know, I really persevered, even though this was super challenging. Or I want to bring forwards that new connection I made with this person on this project, and I think they're really going to be a really great, peer for me, or somebody that I want to work with again. So again, it can be any kind of thing that you want to bring forwards. And then lastly, if we want to celebrate effort, is what should I celebrate? What am I proud of that I did or that happened as a part of whatever the experience is that you're doing a retro on? So I really like doing those. Those are more kind of periodic. I don't do them all the time. And then if you're trying to think about, especially with career, but honestly just life in general, whether it's not a specific job or it's just general kind of career or purpose, these 4 categories, when I'm trying to evaluate something, are really helpful to me. So you can use this if you are like applying for jobs, you're thinking about changing direction in your career, you're thinking about starting something brand new, you want to go back to school, like any example. For whatever the kind of opportunity is or the thing that you're considering, I do like 4 columns on a piece of paper, and it's like knowledge, skill, experience, contribution. So what knowledge do I want to get from this job, or what knowledge do I want to build? Skill, what skills do I need to learn? Or what skills do I want to learn from, if I take this job? What are the skills that I would get or learn or build? Experience, what are the experiences that I want to have if I go to school and get my master's, or I get this job and it's going to be a really big step up in my career? What's the experience it's going to bring me? And then contribution, what's the contribution I want to make? So it doesn't just become about what you get from it, but also what you give. So what is the contribution that I want to make? So knowledge, skill, experience, contribution, those are really helpful buckets to use when you're trying to evaluate something. And then you can kind of take them any way you want. Okay, and then I really like all of these for decision making and problem solving. And again, these aren't directly connected to growth mindset per se, but for me these are practices that get us into that growth mindset way of thinking. So one of the best ones, what is the gift and opportunity, is a really good one when you're faced with a really, really difficult situation. Like, a lot of people are facing a lot of job uncertainty right now. It feels kind of scary out there. You got some really challenging news about a project at work that's just getting completely canned, and you're getting moved on to something else, and you're like, well, this sucks. Always trying to come back to, okay, but for me, what's the gift or what's the opportunity in what's happening, allows you to kind of step back from maybe feeling very kind of stuck in your emotions about something, angry or upset or whatever, and think about what is the growth opportunity for me, even in the difficult experience. Because again, that's usually where you grow the most, even though, it usually sucks the most as well. So what is the gift and opportunity is a great question to ask yourself. Hard yes, hard no, nice to have is another good decision-making tool. Jobs, career, project, something. So for whatever it is you're trying to decide on, what are the hard yeses? If these things show up in the job offer is an easy example, I'd be like, hard yes, I want this job. Hard no, what would those look like? And these can be responsibilities, salary, benefits, people, culture, your manager. It can be anything like that. And then nice to have is the hey, if they have this, sweet, benefit, but it's not a deal breaker for me. That can be really helpful because it's surprising sometimes what shows up when you do this and you kind of surprise yourself. You're like, oh, I didn't realize that was really, really important to me actually. And it allows you, I think, to feel like you are more in the driving seat of making a decision versus that you kind of have to go along with something. You feel a little more like you know what you think about it and you know what your point of view is. And I think that that's very empowering. Energy barrel exercise, and also I'm just spinning through these. I'm happy to talk through any of them later if anybody wants to. This is a good one if you feel like your time is not your own and you don't like what you're doing. It's like a visual. You can draw it or you can just kind of write it out. The first piece is the barrel. You can just draw a circle. Inside it are all the things in your life that give you energy. They're the things that fulfill you, that fill your cup, to use a woo-woo word. They're the things that give you energy back, and that can be in your professional career, in your personal life. The things that when you spend your time on them, or the people you spend your time with, you feel good about yourself. You feel rewarded. And then outside of that, you write all the things that drain your energy. People, places, stuff, projects. So you write those things down, and then you have to be really honest and put next to each of them the things that give you energy, the things that drain your energy, what percentage of your time you're spending on the energy draining things versus the energy giving things. And that can be very telling. Because I did this once with my coach, and I realized I was spending 70% of my time on all the things that drained my energy. And it was like, oh, well, no wonder I feel like everything's terrible and I'm miserable and exhausted all the time. It's because I'm allowing those things to take all of my time. So again, it sort of helps you like notice that, and then I can say, all right, well, what are the steps that I could take to change it? You can't always change everything about that. Sometimes it kind of is the way it is, but knowing that allows you to be more intentional about saying, I need to put more time into, or I need to hold myself to making more time to X thing that just like really makes me feel re-energized again. And it again allows you to feel like you have more control over, what you're spending your time doing, and what, who you're with. And then the last one, I call what is mine, what is not mine. This is another I'm stuck and I'm feeling like I'm drowning type of exercise. It's a good problem solver. So if you're in any kind of situation, I find this one comes up at work a lot, where you're on a project and you just feel like you have all the responsibility and none of the power, which always is a really terrible place to be. The question of asking, okay, what's actually mine in this situation? What are my responsibilities? What am I accountable for doing? And also, what am I accountable for like showing up like? And then what's not mine that I'm like picking up? And that might be picking up the slack for other people who aren't being accountable. It might be picking up trying to like manage everybody else's emotions on the project because everybody hates it and you feel like you got to fix it for them. That's not yours, and you're going to fail at doing that every single time. So trying to separate out the things that are really yours and that you should be accountable for in a challenging situation versus the things that are not, and then finding the ways to say, I'm not going to pick that up. That's not for me. It, again, can be very empowering and really help you to feel like you've got more space to focus on the things that are within your control and let go of the things that are not. Cool. So those were the main things I wanted to talk about. Definitely wanted to take a minute if anyone had any questions or reflections on any of that, and then I have a fun exercise that I'll just leave up here and folks can head out or stick around and do. Yeah, I don't have any questions. Yeah?
So, I'm kind of sitting here, I'm trying to figure out how to frame this. Obviously, you have the growth, the original, growth versus fixed mindset is kind of wanting to cast it. Here's bad, here's good, right?
Can be, yeah.
And the real world, of course, this is a model. The real world is always more complicated than the model.
Yes.
So, I mean, some of the things like the idea that intelligence is static and can change, that's obviously a flawed concept, right? That's grouped along with some other stuff in the fixed mindset that I'm not convinced is necessarily bad. And let me kind of explain. Everybody in this room probably is a type of person who has a lot of natural curiosity. Because tech people are just by nature curious.
Yep.
And you being an artist, by nature curious. Right? Many of you probably have family members, spouses, whatever, who are not naturally curious. And to a naturally curious person, growth is like, this wonderful goal because it allows us to explore, and curiosity is satisfied through growth. To a person who's not curious, growth is, it's important to them, but at a much lower level. A person who's not curious, where they get a great sense of satisfaction is doing. I go to work, I ship out 150 orders. I had a good day. I go to work the next day, I ship out 160, this is awesome. I go to work, we had some problems, I've only got 130 out. It's the doing that is satisfying. So I'm just going to suggest that just because if somebody's not curious, growth may not be the thing that lights them up at the end of the day. It may be doing. And those of us who are curious, I think we need to look very positively at the doers. Because it's the doers who make the cars, who put the food on the table. They're not the ones who change the world. We're the ones who change the world. But we are not productive, they are productive. So they take our gifts in order to do more effectively. They feed us, which enables us to explore and grow. So it's this synergistic relationship with different people. I don't know. If we have that mindset, I think we can appreciate each other in a way that we wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for sharing. I agree, and I always find, I like talking about this because I do think it really gets people to think critically about the whole concept, and my personal opinion is that we should never, any like framework or anything like this, we shouldn't just kind of go, oh, that must be exactly correct or right. It, to me, is always a tool for our own, like you said, curiosity, self-discovery, and kind of analysis of like, how much do I agree with this? How much does it resonate? So yeah, the way I think about growth and fixed mindset is it's very much just for myself as well. Like, I agree that people outside of me are their own person, and they're going to have their own level of curiosity, of wanting to grow or not grow, and what that looks like for everyone is different. And so the way I think about fixed and growth mindset is that it can be a helpful tool for me. It's a helpful framing. For me, noticing when I'm doing some of those like fixed mindset patterns is like I'm kind of falling into some traps in my own head of like usually talking down to myself and like, well, you can't do it. It runs very similarly with imposter syndrome for me. But I agree that I would hesitate to try and apply this to anybody else or say, well, they have a fixed mindset, therefore they're like bad. Because I don't think those things are true either. There's no like, I think, good or bad in it. They're just different ways of thinking about these things and different ways of being. So yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
So my question is, and I'm the type of person that if I see something, then I go like full force, and then just just do everything in that area.
Yeah.
So then will this help with creating like larger goals? Because like I said, I'll see something like a squirrel and just say, okay, yeah, I want to do that, and and then see something else, but. Yeah, would this help with just overall? Do you mean goals?
Like that you feel like you kind of jump from one thing to the other, or
no, just doing more, just another like things. But I mean, just like finding something. Well, I own my own business, and I just if I see something, then me and my employees, that's all. Like we do that, and then something else we do this. But so then so I guess would this be helpful with just like overall long-term goals.
Continuing to grow. I mean, I think so. Yeah, I think for me, I find growth mindset, fixed mindset, it's not one of those things that I like get up every single day and I'm like, am I in a growth mindset? Like, no, but it's often for me, it's like when I'm hitting some kind of like inflection point of like trying to decide. So you found something new, for your business, some new opportunity. For me, sometimes it's also helpful to use it as a way to like evaluate, ask a bunch of questions, get feedback. Some of those things are just very straightforward, practical, tips for like how to grow and how to make sure that you are moving in the direction of growth. I think if you're thinking about how to continue doing more in terms of like business growth and career growth, I would say, some of the practices I have, like knowledge, skill, contribution, experience, I find really helpful as well. Of like, even for your business, okay, I want my company to grow and I really want it to get here. Like, what's the knowledge I want my employees to build? Like, what do I need from folks who work in my company? What kind of knowledge do I need them to have? What kind of skills do I want them to build, or what kind of skills do I need to hire for? What kind of experience am I looking for in folks that I'm trying to bring in because I want to grow the business, I want to move into this new type of area of what my company does. That means I need to expand. It means I need to grow my employees, either the ones that I have, I want to develop them more, and I need to hire more. So something like doing the knowledge, skill, experience, contribution is actually really helpful if you want to like hire or you want to kind of evaluate a growth opportunity. So I think something like that could be really helpful. And I do think coming back to growth mindset is like maybe a check-in of like, oh, do I feel like I'm continuing to use these practices as I find opportunities, as I grow, as I find these new things, and we like go all in on them. And also maybe for your employees, like, how do I help them cultivate these growth mindsets? I think it's a really helpful like managing tool. Again, not because anyone's bad for having a fixed mindset, but everybody has them. Everyone has those spots where they feel stuck or whatever. So I think helping employees feel like they can embrace challenge, they can embrace failure, they can ask a lot of questions, be humble, I think can be really helpful from like an employee development perspective as well. So yeah, hope that helps a little bit. Yeah. Any other questions? Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm just going to leave this up here because we're about at time. This is optional, but this is a fun little reflective practice. I know we only have one session left, so maybe by the end of the happy hour. This is another tool I use when I'm coaching people. If they're trying to set a goal and they want to, start something new, I'm like, okay, so think about the end. At the end of this project, experience, whatever, what do you want to walk away knowing, feeling, and thinking? And taking a minute to write a word or two for each of those can be really interesting. And then it's always cool to go back and look at it a couple of days later and see if they happened. So I'll leave you all with that one and say thank you very much. If you do want to get a little mini coaching from me, that's a QR code that goes to my LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me. And if you do want to get a bit of practice on it, if you find me on LinkedIn and connect with me, send me a message with the 3 things you wrote down, or if you have a question about anything I talked about today. But if you send me your 3 goals about what you wanted to know, feel, and think from this conference, at the end of the month, I'm going to reply to everyone and see how it went. All right. Well, thanks very much for coming to this makeup session. Really appreciate it.